welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. This is a weekly conversation with aspiring leaders, community-minded citizens who contribute to the welfare and the well-being of our state here in Hawaii. Today with us is Allen Uyeda, who is the former CEO and president of First Insurance. And it is really my honor to have him here on the show almost a year after you retire,
Exactly.
right, Allen?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. And as I said, I was rereading the article about you at the Pacific Business News, and I am just so excited to have this almost private conversation with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, maybe a little bit about you, and obviously First Insurance is a significant business community member here in the state, and you were with them, I know you started in mid-1995.
I came here in 94, working with them. I was on the payroll of one of their parent companies before that. And in 1995, I officially became part of First Insurance, so I was there for almost 20 years.
Wow. And then, of course, last year in 2014, you were honored by the Pacific Business News to receive their Business Leadership Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes.
So congratulations again.
Thank you.
And of course, even though you're retired from First Insurance, I know in our conversation you are still very heavily involved in a lot of the nonprofit organizations in the community. So let me name a few. So you are still the chair of the Hawaii Business Roundtable.
No, I retired from that. Once I retired, I still participate in some of their committees, but I'm not officially a member of the Roundtable anymore. But I'm a member of the Research and Innovation and the Economic Development committees.
Okay, but you still sit on the board of the First Hawaiian Bank.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then you are also the vice chair and treasurer of the Crown Prince Akihito Scholarship Foundation.
Okay, I became chair last year. I used to be vice chair and treasurer. Now I'm chair when Howard Hamamoto retired.
Wow, Allen,
things continually change.
You're really, really modest to begin with, and yes, things are continuing even though you retired from your position at First Insurance. So let me ask you this question. You've been retired for almost a year, so how does it feel?
Busy.
Okay.
I thought when I retired, I knew I didn't want to do nothing. So I'm very lucky to be able to be engaged in a number of different organizations. We're doing a lot of exciting things in the community. And with my fiancée, Amy Zeka, we've been able to do some traveling that we wouldn't have been able to do if I was still working. But it's just busier than I thought. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time to just sit and relax and just read for pleasure. And it's just been chock full of things to do.
Well, first of all, let me thank Amy for coming to watch the interview. It's really nice to have you here. Second thing, you mentioned that you wanted to sit back and read. Have you actually been able to do that?
On planes. Basically, that's when I do my reading, for pleasure or for fun. Other times, it seems like the day is taken up, reading things for upcoming meetings or projects that I'm involved in. Which isn't a bad thing. It's just very different from what I anticipated retirement would be.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Before July 31st last year, when you knew that you were going to retire, what were you expecting, besides reading and having more time to kick back?
Well, I thought I'd have time to play tennis, go skiing, read, just maybe spend a little bit more time traveling. Okay. But it has been fun, very interesting. Like just this morning, I was having breakfast with a friend who's also heavily involved with University of Hawaii, telling me about a lot of the great things he's involved with and moving the university forward.
Well, I know that when we first started talking about having this interview, and I think that was back in November when I attended the recognition event at PBN, but I knew that you were involved in a lot of things, but early on you mentioned, okay, you have to read on the plane to prepare for projects and meetings. Yes. So tell us about the projects and meetings that you've been involved in.
Well, some of the projects I'm involved with overlap for the University of Hawaii and the Business Roundtable in terms of trying to help Hawaii develop another tradable sector for the economy. And I think when it was with the Roundtable, and the Roundtable is now continues to be focused on the fact that we need to grow our economy, both to be able to meet some of the pressing needs like the unfunded pension, post-retirement benefits, the infrastructure, to make sure that we have an economy that supports education, medical facilities, the social services that, make up a vibrant society. And if you look at the visitor industry, it's very built out. The number of the visitor industry in real terms hasn't really expanded since the mid-'80s. The military and federal government, which is another significant part of the economy, is also under pressure for revenue for Hawaii. And Hawaii, partly because of the University of Hawaii and all the research that's done there, has a great opportunity to expand in innovative technical areas. I think people sometimes forget that the University of Hawaii is pretty consistently in the last few years been a top 10% of research and development institutions worldwide. But we're very low in terms of commercialization. So that's a great opportunity. One area where Hawaii has succeeded is alternative energy, which is a benefit, to the state in terms of we send less money out of the state so that more money can stay in Hawaii. But there are a lot more opportunities, and I think there's a number of people trying to figure out how we commercialize both innovation that happens in Hawaii and how we tap into some of the innovation that's happening elsewhere in the United States, and like Hank Wu and others take that technology and develop it into businesses.
Wow, Alan, that is amazing. You've touched on a lot of areas, how to grow the economy. You mentioned how University of Hawaii should develop the future workforce. Has this always been an interest of yours while you were at First Insurance?
Yes. When I was at First Insurance, and we put together our strategy, one of the things that we realized that First Insurance only does business in Hawaii. So First Insurance really can't be profitable, can't be successful unless Hawaii is successful. So when we put together our vision and values, one of the values that we focused on was creating the future for the company and the community, realizing that those two had to go hand in hand, and that's partly why First Insurance has been committed to trying to help education, put a lot of work in trying to figure out how we can coordinate with the University of Hawaii, both sort of on a macro state scale, and also selfishly for First Insurance, because that's where First Insurance gets a lot of its employees. And we need the universities here to help develop the young people to provide a workforce for the future.
Well, I guess it's a mutually beneficial relationship because I guess on behalf of the Trigler College of Business, I have to thank you and First Insurance for supporting the business night that we had about a week ago, because First Insurance has been, I guess, the title sponsor of the event for the past 10 years, I believe.
Yes.
I was at the event last week, but unfortunately I didn't have a chance to talk to you.
So many people were there.
Right. And I remember on the brochure that was printed for that night, I guess the inside cover page, there was a picture of a lot of the UH alumni who graduated from the from University of Hawaii and who ended up working at First Insurance. So the pipeline that you mentioned that you're trying to build here.
Right.
But that is, well, and also, of course, you also, First Insurance also sponsored there's an endowed chair no, the professorship.
Professorship,
If you
we
could talk
had a
about
chair
that, yeah.
for risk management. And Jing Ai was a professor that eventually was able to attract. She came, she's originally from China, but did her PhD at the University of Texas. And he said that having an endowed chair is very attractive to professors, so that it'll help them support their research once they get tenure. And we're very fortunate, I think from First Insurance's standpoint, as well as from the university standpoint, to attract somebody like Jing Ai to come to Hawaii. And she and a lot of the other professors have done a lot to build up the credibility of the University of Hawaii Scheidler School of Business. I think Vance the other night said now they have 37 endowed chairs. When he first came, he set a goal of, he wanted to hit 40 and thought, well, geez, we'll never get there.
That's right.
And he's almost there.
Yeah, he actually just recently celebrated his 10th year at the at the college as well. So I guess there are a lot of celebrations going on this year. But I know that you're also involved in the Pacific Asia Center for Entrepreneurship. So kind of tying back to some of the things that you were commenting on regarding entrepreneurship. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that side?
It's Susan Yamada and I talked, and again, when I was at First Insurance and we talked about and I was at the Business Roundtable at Enterprise Honolulu, all these organizations have been talking about how do we add another dimension to Hawaii's economy? How do we create more opportunities for young people? How do we try to, that will be attractive and allow them to have the same standard of living or better standard of living than they would on the mainland? And we viewed the university as central to that initiative. And while the university has a lot of pieces, I think PACE helps bring those pieces together by creating a space where students from the law school, the business school, the sciences, engineering, or wherever in the university can come together, share ideas, find people with different talents to work together, and hopefully create some startups. One of the statistics I think that we've been very mindful of as we view this initiative is the fact that if you look at the United States since 1977, when they started keeping statistics on startups, in total, and in all except 7 years, there would be no net new jobs in the United States were not for startups. And that's been a real driver of economic growth in the United States. And if you look around the country, and those cities that have economies that are vibrant, growing, and providing a lot of opportunity for people, a lot of them have research universities and are developing innovative technology companies. And that's beneficial not just for the people involved in those companies, but also the community as a whole, so that people in other parts of the economy, whether there are restaurants or carpenters or other tradesmen, also have a higher level of living. And those in the cities like Palo Alto, Seattle, Austin, Texas, Boston, New York, where they have that kind of vibrancy in the economy. I think we believe that Hawaii can capitalize on its assets and make Hawaii even a better place to live.
So you're talking about the trickle-down effect.
Right. Right.
Now, earlier on, you made a comment that we bring in a lot of research dollars, but we're still working on actually commercializing a lot of the projects. Actually, I was mentioning to you that in this issue, or this month's issue of Hawaii Business Magazine, they actually talked about UH and some of the projects that are going through Accelerator. Are you involved in Accelerator?
I'm not. I'm personally not involved in Accelerator, although even in a meeting yesterday, I was in some committees with people who are representatives from the But that's the type of thing that we're trying from the the committees I'm involved in, trying to see how we support, facilitate their development, and hopefully, if we all of us working together, we can improve Hawaii's economy.
Wow. Alan, we're coming on our first break. I know we've talked a lot about the university, and I know you're a great supporter. We're very fortunate to have somebody like you. But after the break, I'm interested in your other work involving other projects. And you recently came back from the Philippines, so maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Thank you.
My guest is Allen Uyeda. He is the retired CEO of First Insurance. You have been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ted Ralston. Ted is the host of Where the Road Leads. It shows every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about technology. It's about how people collaborating and solve problems with modern technology. It's where the road leads. We all know that. We should all be listening. Join us there, 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday. Now, what about that do you agree with?
All of it.
I knew he'd say that. Aloha. Say aloha.
Aloha.
Good.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Allen Uyeda, the retired CEO from First Insurance Company. In November last year, he was awarded the Hawaii, I have to look at this, 2014 Business Leadership Hawaii Lifetime Achievement Award from the Pacific Business News. So, Alan, we were talking about, I guess, your involvement and support of the University of Hawaii, but I know you do a lot more in the community. Just based on that article in PBN, people are saying that you're really a very community-minded leader. So tell us about the other projects that you are involved in.
Well, I'm also on a board at Queens Medical Center, Queens Hospital. And I think the reason I was attracted to that is both the leadership with Art Ishijima and his team, but recognizing that that is a very critical element of a vibrant community and one that's facing a lot of change, a lot of challenges. So it's been I've just joined earlier this year, and that's been very interesting in seeing how they're trying to grapple with the challenges in that space, and at the same time try to continue to work to expand and improve the quality of healthcare services available in Hawaii. Obviously right now, the best healthcare is located on Oahu, and the neighbor islands often have to come to Hawaii. And it's hard to be able to provide the neighbor islands with the same level of care that Oahu does. So I think that's one aspect of it, but it's also trying to deal with the fact that medicine is constantly changing too, and how do they provide the resources in the best way for the community. There are a lot of difficult issues facing healthcare, including the fact that I think the country is trying to deal with a concern that a large part of the healthcare costs go to people very near the end of their life, which means that those resources aren't available for others, and there are a lot of other needs in the community.
Now, you said you just joined them recently, just this year, after you retired. I guess a sidetrack, when I was thinking of the title of the interview, I ended up calling it Pulse of the State, with with you,
Right.
Allen Uyeda. You certainly know a lot about what's going on. You touch on entrepreneurship, technology, workforce development, now it's healthcare. Coming from the insurance side, and did you have any healthcare background or healthcare administration background?
No, I have nothing to do with healthcare. I mean, the only exposure I had, which is very tangential, was workers' compensation.
Oh, okay.
So, and when I was with the Hawaii Insurance Council a number of years ago, we had a relationship with the medical community here where we had our members spend a couple days with doctors to see what they're going through, because we wanted to try to improve the communications, you know, improve understanding, because with workers' compensation at that point, there was some, you know, concern on both sides, that the other side really understand the challenges from a different perspective. So there I got to spend some time with some different physicians, and I was thankful that I'm not a doctor. I mean, to see what, I mean, you're very grateful that we have doctors, but then dealing constantly with injured or very sick people, I thought, okay, I'm glad I have the problems I have and not theirs.
Well, it does take a special breed to be physicians,
Yes.
but I mean, I could say the same thing about you. I'm glad I'm not in insurance,
Right.
because that sounds challenging, and with the work that I've had opportunities to talk to Jing, I said, wow, I certainly don't want to be, you know, understanding all the numbers, and all that. But coming back to your role here at Queens, do you feel that because of your background in insurance, and you commented on some of the issues that the state is facing for residents in neighbor islands, the technology and how it's impacting healthcare. So with your background in insurance, what kind of solutions do you think you can come up with? I mean, what do you see as some of the possible ways to, I guess, work with technology? That's one question. And I guess to resolve some of the neighbor island healthcare issues.
Well, I'm just learning a lot about that, but I think from what I can see, the hospitals and the doctors are trying to figure out how to use technology better, be able to communicate with people, you know, at remote distances, to have quicker response times for, say, like reading of like various imaging results. They're also doing a lot of work in trying to meet, quote, best practices, and using technology, information technology, to help them track what's happening, you know, so they can get feedback and figure out ways to improve their processes and controls.
But then, of course, technology, it also ties back into entrepreneurship and some of the startups that are being fostered and encouraged here in the community. I guess in quickly flipping through the Hawaii Business Magazine, I think there are companies that are working on different medical technologies.
There's, you have Hanku working on a couple different types of technology, whether it's artificial corneas, fitness tracking. She has a company that's trying to make it more engaging, more sticky for people to get involved in doing things that are good for their health by having some competition among their friends and others. So there are a number. I mean, Pat Sullivan was the leader in developing the, quote, Star Trek bed. You know, would you lay on it,
right?
and monitors a lot of your vital symptoms. So there's a lot of things that are being done, and the challenge is then try to get them incorporated into our community and into our society, so that the benefit actually reaches a wide group of people.
Wow. Now, this is all happening here locally in our state, but I know you just recently came back from the Philippines. So can you tell us about that project that you were involved in?
Okay, I wasn't really involved in the project, but I got to see some of the work that Consuelo Foundation has been involved in trying to meet community needs.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you explain to us who is Consuelo Foundation?
Consuelo Foundation was set up by a woman who was from the Philippines, married a U.S. general, and decided to leave her fortune to the foundation to do work, some work in Hawaii, but also a lot of work in the Philippines. And it's headquartered out of and run out of Hawaii, because she got to know some people here and developed faith in them. So there's a group of people here who sort of commute between Hawaii and the Philippines, trying to help them deal with a number of needs. And Amy and I were fortunate to be able to see one of their operations, which had sort of great success. At one point, this priest came to the Consuelo, I think 20, 25 years ago, and said, look, taking care of 12 street kids, like to expand. They said, okay, we'll give you resources so you can take care of 30. Today, he schools over 1,000. He has dorms for over 240. He has a huge gym, I think at least 2 basketball courts in length, chapel, dorms, soccer field. And 20 years ago, when he wanted to expand, he went to the government and said, I need some more space. And they said, okay, you know the space behind you, which was a garbage dump. 6,000 truckloads of dirt later, he was able, and a lot of other work, he's able to build this to meet the needs of a lot of homeless or abandoned kids.
That's incredible. So you actually met with the priest this time?
We met with the priest. I mean, he's just an incredible person. He said he described his start, said when he was young, he had different ways he could go, and he decided that this was going to give him, this was his calling. This is where his heart was. And he's just done an amazing job to help a lot of kids. Tries to give them a trade, a way to earn a living. Teach a number of them to become auto mechanics or air conditioner repair people. But one of the children last year had I think, a month or a few week internship with the London Ballet.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And 2 of them had some internships with the Manila Ballet. So he's been trying to find, their calling too, and try to help most of them find a place in society. But if they've got a skill, try to nurture that too.
So the priest himself is doing all these connection building and just taking care of these kids.
Well, he's got his board, so they help, and they've got a staff now, so they build up the organization a little bit. But he still is a driving force.
How are you going to continue to help them?
I don't know if it was we wanted to go see that just to see what they're doing, what they're able to achieve. I'm not sure that I personally will be involved a lot there, but it just what I appreciated is seeing a different society, a different community, and being able to meet somebody who took sort of I think a lot of people would say a hopeless situation, and while there's maybe still a lot to be done, has made a significant impact for a lot of people. And I think to me, it's just a very inspiring story to see somebody able to take a small plot and just expand it. And I think that's, for me, it was just sort of very inspirational, and something hopefully I'll be able to remember as we face different challenges, that look, this guy had a lot less. He's got a huge challenge, and he just keeps going with a smile.
Well, as you commented, the priest was or is still the driving force behind all this. But then I guess from my perspective, in some way you were a leader at First Insurance, and I read stories about when you first joined. The company went through some challenges because of the Hurricane
Niki.
So, in some way, I understand Philippines is a different situation, but it also takes a good leader, a strong leader, a leader who's willing to persevere to make all that happen.
And a lot of other people. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I really appreciated about the opportunity I had at First Insurance, getting to work with a bunch of people, because we realize too that, I mean, every individual may bring some skills, but not all the skills that they need. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with a great team who will be able to tell you they compensated for a lot of my weaknesses.
Well, you are very humble, but I guess the analogy that popped into my head is you're like a great conductor. Of course, the conductor would say, oh, because of the musicians, but without the conductor, the music won't happen. And I can definitely see why you are so busy even after your retirement. But I'd like to talk a little bit more about, I guess, leadership and perhaps advice for young people when we come back from our second break. Great. My guest is Allen Uyeda, who was recognized by the Pacific Business News last year for his business leadership Hawaii Lifetime Achievement Award. And he was also the former CEO and president of First Insurance. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. We'll be right back after the show.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii. And I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring onto this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My guest is Allen Uyeda. He is the former CEO and president of First Insurance Company. If you have questions for us, please tweet us as ThinkTechHI. All right, Allen, you are very busy. You probably will be busy for a while, for a very long time. We talked about the Consuelo Foundation before the break, and how you found that the priest who came for the foundation's help 20 years ago has created so much and done so much for the children in the Philippines, and that was an inspirational story for you. But of course, that leads me back to some leadership question. You've got these great experiences behind you. You've done so much. You're still heavily involved in the community. So I guess the question is, how did you get here?
Luck. I mean,
you're very humble, Allen.
Well, a number of years ago, one of the insurance brokers sat with me for lunch and said, okay, what made First Insurance successful? And I thought for a moment, and then I said, luck. And he said, stop right there. He said, I asked you that question because I just wanted to see when you were going to mention luck, because luck plays a role in all our lives. But also, I think one of the fortunate interactions I was able to have had just before, the day before I graduated from college, and the day before I got commissioned as an infantry lieutenant. One of my friends who on the wrestling team, who was a few years older, came back. We wrestled the same weight, so he gave me his uniforms. He gave me some advice. And he said to me, look, you're going to go to infantry officers basic school, you know, you might wind up at that. I didn't have to go to Vietnam because they reduced the troop level. So they discharged my infantry officers basic school when we got done with school, so I didn't have to go. But that time, we didn't know what was going to happen. But he said, look, I've got 3 pieces of advice for you. When you go to infantry officers basic school, they're going to ask for volunteers to play the lead when we go through various exercises. He said, well, volunteer every chance you get. You're going to make a fool of yourself, you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn. And I think I've realized that was good advice for all of life. I mean, if you participate, realizing that not everything is going to work out, but you'll learn and you can improve. 2, he said to me, this is guerrilla warfare. Don't think what you're going to learn in school, in your training, the book solutions are going to enable you to meet the problems you're going to face. You're going to have to make changes, you're going to have to innovate. And I think that's been true throughout, you know, that's even more true today than it was then. And 3, he said to me, and you don't lead because of rank. You don't lead because of the bars on your uniform. You have to earn the leadership. People have to believe in you, trust you. Don't throw the book at people. Don't tell people you do this because I am the lieutenant. I mean, that is not going to enable you to be effective. And that was 1971, and his advice has stuck with me throughout my life, and I often think about how fortunate I was for him to take the time to come back and talk to me.
Do you still stay in touch?
No, unfortunately, he passed away.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for sharing that. It's yeah, I'm speechless. I guess I read about, as I said, I read about you, and these are actually some of the things that I think your colleagues mentioned. Again, referring to the Pacific Business News articles, some of the words I remember, they said you persevere, you're very decisive, and I think more importantly, they said that you actually know, you remember people's lives, the details. And some of the things you just mentioned about volunteering, that reminded me of the speaker at Business Night, Lance Mitsumoto.
Right,
yes. Because remember the story that he talked about
how he had to decide that he was going to stick to his word and what it would look like if he left the organization when things were tough.
Right.
And that he needed to stay there for the people. And I think that's a perfect example of what my friend was trying to say. It's like, as a leader, you have to be involved. And it isn't just a skill, it's got to be a passion and a commitment. And people will either know that you have it or you don't. And I remember Lance also mentioned that I guess he was able to portray it in a very funny manner, that when he got his first job, he had to do the event planning for his boss's wedding. But I guess he realized that that's a way to show his ability. And like what you said, the advice for you, volunteer as much as possible. You may make a fool of yourself, but that's how you learn. Right. Wow. And you hear the people in the tech sector, you know, at Pace and other places. You hear Susan Yamada reminding people the idea is to fail fast. The fact that in that space, you know, when you come to an interview, people say, "Well, what have you failed at?" And if you can't answer that, they say to you, "Well, why did we hire you? You have no worthwhile experience. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried something big enough to make it worthwhile. And I think that that's not the advice my parents gave me when I was young, but I think it is very applicable. The world is changing so fast today that an important part of, I think, one's development has to be learning to like get back up after setbacks. I mean, I think that's always been true, but I think it's even more true today, because the world just doesn't work out the way we hope it would work out.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we were growing up, failure is something to be ashamed or embarrassed about, but I think one could learn so much from one's mistakes, failure. So hopefully that's something the younger people right now would realize. But now you've gone through a lot, and it was interesting reading about you. I didn't realize that you were a wrestler when you were at college.
Yes. That teaches you failure.
You've met with and mentored a lot of younger people. You talked about advice, what it takes to be a good leader. I guess in looking back at everything you've done, what are some of the significant changes that kind of struck you, whether it be young people who have worked for you, or just perhaps in the insurance business?
What struck me is I'm lucky I retired now. I mean, the world is changing so fast. I mean, when I look back and think about how different the world is than when I started working, or even when I started in insurance. I mean, the pace of change in technology has affected every aspect of, say, the insurance business. I mean, social media impacts how customers work with agents, work with companies. Big data and artificial intelligence impacts marketing and how underwriters and actuaries analyze data. It affects customers in the sense that you know, now they're putting technology in vehicles to monitor how people drive all the time, and it's probably going to become even more and more prevalent. It's created some problems in terms of cybersecurity, identity theft. So it's created a challenge. It created a new market for insurance companies. And the change is happening so fast. It's just a challenge for everybody to keep up, let alone trying to figure out how you get an edge, a competitive edge on your competition. So it's making, I think, harder for smaller organizations to have the resources to continue to invest. I think in that sense, First Insurance is fortunate that it's part now of a larger global organization, Tokyo Marine. But the pace of change in technology, the climate change, change in the financial markets, has affected the insurance business as hedge funds have gotten more into reinsurance, which is insurance for insurance companies. So when you look at how insurance companies operate and what they have to deal with, virtually every aspect has changed.
Wow. So with all the changes that you mentioned, is there anything you miss from, I guess, your position at First Insurance?
I mean, I think, as with most people, I mean, you develop friends, so you miss them. I mean, I've been very fortunate in the sense that, as we've talked about, I've been able to stay engaged with a number of organizations, and in doing so, I see some of the First Insurance people or others in the community that I've worked with. So in that sense, you know, I feel very, very lucky. I get to meet them, and not just both socially, but also as we try to work together on dealing with various issues. And I can catch up with them and get their perspective. So I feel lucky in that sense although I feel tired also.
But you have enough of the other community projects that keep you busy, Alan.
Yes.
I wish I had another 45 minutes to talk with you, but I realized that we're coming to a close.
Right.
So thank you so much,
Well,
and
thank
I
you for
wish
having
you
me.
all the best with all your other travel plans and your activities and your projects.
Right.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining me today.
Thank you.
My guest is Allen Uyeda, the former CEO of First Insurance Company. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. Please join us again next week. Aloha.